What is going on YouTube? Welcome back to the Cardfight Casual channel, and today, as you can see before you, we have a Gold Paladin versus Murakumo match. Now my Murakumo deck is the Shirayuki build with slight tweaks from the deck review, which you can check out right here in the top right hand corner. But my opponent is actually playing a rather interesting deck, with that being the Gold Paladin Garmore build as opposed to the Ezra build as is typically run. So this is mostly commons and rares from BTO3, which is the Miyagi Academy set, and you'll get to see some pretty interesting combo effects, which should probably be a more popular deck than it currently is, but it's really effective. But getting straight into the match, my opponent cuts the deck, and so he's going to be going first, and then he looks at his hand, and he's going to ride Dindrain from the top and calls down a Bernicus, I believe his name is. I'm not too sure of these names, but yeah, he doesn't do anything with that for now. I ride the Sukarok and attack. He takes 1 damage because he actually needs a little bit of damage for his skills to work. He rides the Wonder Ezel, not having Ezel, but because of its secondary skill, which is that when you call him to rearguard, you can call another unit from hand, just as an activator of skills. Meanwhile, I ride the Jokatsugo and swing at his Vanguard. Jokatsugo unfortunately has no skill on Vanguard, so that's just a vanilla swing, and we're 2-1, he's at 2 damage, I am at 1 damage, and here is the first big play. He rides Garmore, which allows you to counterblast 1 and search the top 3 cards and call one of those cards. Now Garmore is one of the main engines of this deck because he helps to fuel the field, as well as allowing you to plus your field without having to minus at any point. He uses the Bernicus skill, and the skill is to send him to Soul, draw 1, and call 1 card from your hand to the field, which allows you to fill up the field without actually needing to drop any hand. As you can see he's doing here. Same with the Sagramore for a Soul Blast. You can do the same, draw a card and call another card, and he calls 2 of these other cards. This is the card, I can't remember the name, but it gets 20,000 power for when you have 4 cards that are being called. And so this turn, because there were those 4 cards being called, both of those on the Excel circle and the Rearguard circle are going to get big power, and with Garmore he does give 3k power to the units that are on the field when he rides, which is just enough to hit numbers a lot of the time, and you'll see it's really annoying, especially later on in this match. For me, I'm facing down 4 really big attacks, so I'm prioritizing here, deciding to guard no pass against the Vanguard, just so I have more space to take damage from the big 30-40k swings. So with Sagramore, I decided to take that damage, which is good for me in a sense because I do get the trigger, and I decide, or rather I guarded the Sagramore, but I took the other 2. I think that's why I'm at 3 damage now. I ride the Shirayuki, mostly because it's one of the better rides in my hand. I'm not sure whether I have Mandala Lord in hand at this point. I think I do. But at this point, I'm just trying to get rid of some of his rear guards, as you're going to see me do here in just a minute. I have 2 Moratessas in hand, which is kind of annoying, and of course Moratessa is much better on the rear guard than he is on the Vanguard, but with the Imitation Mandala in hand, which is a card I swapped out from the Shirayuki deck, I swing at his rear guard and take it out. Vanguard swings, double drive check, there's nothing unfortunately, but my opponent does get that draw trigger, which makes things really annoying. But I think with the Moratessa, I'm just going to swing at his rear guard, and then one more time at his Vanguard with my second Moratessa. And he's deciding whether or not to guard, because Muratessa's skill is of course the Shadow Stitch, whether it hits or not. I didn't realize that I could actually still hit because he had the trigger, but he does decide to guard the second Muratessa anyway. And so I'm going to be searching my deck, deciding whether to get another Mandala or another Shirayuki. In this case, I like to take the Mandala Lord, just because Mandala is a little bit more versatile, because I do play 4 Imitation Mandala, and that allows me to call them as boosters, which is something that's quite lacking, and especially Sukarok with the position swapping, I do think that having a card that can be both a booster and an attacker is pretty versatile. And also because at this point, I think I have another Shirayuki in hand, but not enough soul to use more than 1. So I think that's why I went for the Imitation Mandala instead. So here we'll see Howl's skill, where he just calls using the skill of Howl to call that card on the left side, on the left Excel circle, which is a card that gains 5,000 power. It's a 9k grade 2 that gains 5,000 power when a unit is called, which is including himself. And his back row on the left side there behind the Sagramore gets plus 3k on the turn if it's not called, and that is the same as the other card that he has behind his Howl, but unfortunately that one was called just that turn. So here I'm deciding what to do. I think I have a Mandala Lord in my hand, which is why I decided not to get the Shirayuki, because I'm gonna ride Mandala the next turn. But here's a pretty tough decision. Like I say, staring down now 5 attacks and boosted up with that second Garmore. Oh, sorry, 4 attacks, but with the Garmore and the front trigger, it's going to be really, really painful. So I get the 1 damage, and unfortunately there's no trigger. And this column is going to be swinging 26 to my Shirayuki. Right here, I really don't have much of a choice. My hand size is big, but unfortunately, as you can see, with my Mortessas that I called, I don't really have that many cards to guard with, a lot of them grade 3s, but lucky for me, I do take that 1 damage, getting that draw trigger, the best possible trigger to have gotten, besides a heal trigger, maybe better in this case because I actually don't have enough cards in hand to guard with. And you can see me throwing down more cards there. I think that's a 15k shield for one of the attacks, the Sagramore's attacks, and the left side card, which I can't remember the name of for the life of me, but he's a 24k attacker, 34 with the front trigger, which is neutralized by the draw trigger that I got, damage. But then I go on to my turn, riding the Mandala Lord, and I'm just gonna have to call out 2 Mandalas here because unfortunately I only play, not unfortunately, but I only do play 2 Mortessa Villains, which are both on the field at this point. So I'm deciding where to call them pretty much, or just what to do with the turn that I'm having. So you'll see me here searching out for the 2 Mandalas. And I think I do just take 2 imitation Mandalas if I'm not wrong, because of, like I said, the versatility. And I think those are probably the best cards I could have gotten in this situation. And you'll see me here kind of trying to debate whether I should put it behind the Mortessa or on the Excel Circle, which you'll see me doing right here. And call a third one. I'm sorry, I think I have the Fushimis on the Excel Circle and call the 2 grade 1, the grade 2 Mandala Lords into the rear guard, and then I put 1 card from hand with Mandala Lord skill, which gives all Mandala Lords on the field plus 3000 power. So that's a 12k swing on the left side Excel Circle, a 15k swing on my Vanguard, which you're about to see right here. Usually swing on my Vanguard just to see whether I can hit one of those front triggers to give my entire field a bonus. But the back row is going to be a 12k booster, which is going to be pretty effective against my opponent. I do get the draw trigger here, drawing 1 extra card. I give the power to the left side Excel Circle Mandala Lord, the imitation Mandala Lord, and it's going to be a big 32 swing. But swinging first with Fushimi for 24k because I have 4 more rear guards. He decides to block that one. Right now he just wants to take the damage from the Mortessa to prevent me from getting any cards, extra cards off his skill. And he is able to take 2 damage, so if he wants to, he can just prevent me from using Mortessa's skill completely by taking all the damage from the Mortessa Villains, which he does with the right side Mortessa right here, and the second one as well, so I don't get to use either of the skills to try and increase my hand size for guarding. But regardless, it wouldn't have really done much good. The most I could have gotten is a 5k shield. And here you see another turn with another Howl and another card call. I think it's another one of those great ones who gets to be sent to Soul and calls another thing. And right here he calls a grade 3, which allows you to on attack counterblast 1 and call another card, which gives him even more attacks. So right now on the field I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th attack that would be coming that I need to block. So right here I'm just kind of trying to decide whether I should block his Vanguard, because his Vanguard is hitting some sort of numbers. I think it's hitting 21 for the time being, but the 2 columns on the left is hitting 22. On the leftmost on the Excel Circle is hitting 24. On the rightmost it's hitting at least 19, which are all the perfect numbers to hit my 22k Vanguard. And unfortunately right here he gets a heal trigger, but I was pretty much dead anyway. So there we go, 6 damage, and that's the first match. Now going into the second match, here we go, cutting straight off the bat, we get me going first this time, which hopefully gives me slight advantage. And right here you'll see me deciding which card to ride, because I don't know whether I want to use the Rainy Madam, but I do decide to ride that instead. And he rides the grade 1 card, which gets 3k if it's not the turn that's been called. And he does hit the draw trigger, which is really unfortunate, and unfortunately I take a Shirayuki as damage, which is 1 less Shirayuki in the deck. But here I do get quite the the field-filling hand, which allows me to swing big, and hopefully if he doesn't want to take too much damage, he'll let the Jukatsu go through. But chances are he'll just, let the Jukatsu go through so that I don't get to use her skill. And unfortunately, he does get a heal trigger, which reduces his damage back to 1. So the grade 1 and grade 2 turns for Gold Paladin, this particular Gold Paladin deck, aren't too important, just because they are pretty much vanilla, and their only power is that it is a lot of numbers. And unfortunately, he swings at Jukatsu Girl, not wanting to give me the chance to clone her, which is, you know, because I think he knows that when I call cards down, it's pretty much for Mandala Lord skill, and which it is. I mean, you see me here choosing to call one more Suki and one more Mandala, as those are the only options available to me. And again, I go for the Imitation Mandala and the regular Suki. Really no point in trying to save my cards at this point for guarding, because no matter what, his hand size doesn't really go down, because every time he calls a card, usually it's prefaced by someone drawing, and because of that, his hand size stays big enough to guard, but his field is almost always full. And with the new Gold Paladin cards hitting 22s and just those good enough numbers, 22, 27, 37, 32, those kind of numbers, is actually really simple. And so you see me here trying to decide where to put all the cards on my field. With that Shirayuki, I try to rush him down, maybe get some advantage. Shirayuki on the rearguard only reduces your opponent's Vanguard by 5k, so now he's at 4000 power. And I decide to use Mandala Lord skill just as a push, and then putting Suki, I believe I put him to the side so that he can swap places. So right here you have Suki swinging at the opponent's Vanguard. So that's 8 to 4k, that's a 5k guard. And none of the cards on field have any of the skills that allow me to Shadow Stitch or do something when the attack does not hit. So he's just going to rack up the damage, unfortunately getting the 10k trigger, making him a 17k base, or rather 14k base. I can still hit with the Suki and the fake Imitation Mandala, and of course with the Shirayuki he still has to guard, but it's not really much. You see him throw two triggers right here, 2 perfect guard triggers, but unfortunately for me, he actually does have one more in hand, which you will see later on. But in my mind I was thinking, okay, he's run out of draw triggers, which is draw trigger perfect guards, which is usually the case. And he rides Garmore, which is of course the ideal ride, and the main engine of the deck, along with Sagramore. He's able to fill up his field, albeit with the trigger from the first call. But then a second Sagramore comes down, and he's filling up the field without reducing his hand size at all, which is just a really annoying thing for me. And he calls Dindrin with the second Garmore, and the second Sagramore, my bad. And he calls down another card, that a grade 3 again, which allows you to call one more unit, I believe, or perhaps the grade 2. But at any rate, I decide to take this damage, and just to try and get the trigger, making the turn a little bit easier to guard. He does use the Sagramore to swing twice. I guard the first one and then take the second one, just because it's a bit easier to guard. The first one is just 10k. And then the second side swings, and he decides to call, using the Counterblast skill, he was going to call Sagramore from hand, but he realizes he has no more soul, so instead he replaces the Sagramore that he called to the Excel Circle, opting instead for the on call, if on place, if you have 4 more rear guards, he gets 20,000 continuous, I should add, not on place. But yeah, so that's a really big swing, and I know I have to take that one. So I do, and I'm up to 4 damage, and it's just my second grade 3 turn starting now. Here's a really tough decision, because, you know, I reduce his power of, you know, the biggest of his units, which I want to get rid of, as well as his Vanguard. But sitting at 3 damage is going to be pretty hard for me, even at full capacity, to rush him down, just because you know, he has enough cards to guard even one of his attacks, or 2 of my attacks, and that will be pretty much it. I swing with the Shirayuki Vanguard first. I don't actually have any Shirayukis in my hand, unfortunately. Of course, my hand's actually empty. That's why I call the trigger down. And with no front trigger, this does not look good. I was banking on a front trigger or a critical trigger to try and help me out. But I do get I am able to use Suki skill, which allows me to swing and hit one of the units that I choose. And I'm not sure right here whether to go for attack, offense, or defense, but I think I swung at his Vanguard, so he's just going to, I believe, he's just going to try and get a trigger, which unfortunately for me, he gets another trigger, and he's back to 12k base. So I swing with my second Suki, and then with my Mandala Lord. At this point, I thought that I couldn't hit his Vanguard, but I forgot I reduced him by 10. So I swing with the Shirayuki first, which is actually the bigger one and not that great, because if he got a trigger, then it'll be harder for my Mandala Lord to hit. But at this point he's at 5 damage and I know that he can't swing with anything else. So he informs me of this and he swings with the Mandala. And I swing with the Mandala and I attack his rear guard because I realize this turn I'm not going to be able to finish him out. So I should probably try and reduce his attacking force. And then I swing with the Shirayuki to his Vanguard just to make him drop more cards, hopefully to weaken his power. And as you'll see here, he drops another perfect card, which I didn't know he had. And the Shirayuki was swinging 22, pretty big 15k guard. And he here decides to ride Garmore because he doesn't need Garmore anymore. And Garmore skill draws one card and calls another card, which he does here. And he now has many attacks, at least 5 and 6 if he uses the skill of the main card on the right side. And I am taking the first damage just to try and get a heal trigger or some sort of trigger, hopefully a draw trigger to bolster my defense. And unfortunately for me, I do get one Imitation Mandala, and with the only 2 cards in my hand being a Jokatsu Girl or Jakotsu Girl, and another 5k shield, I don't have any choice but to take the 1 damage. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click that subscribe and bell notification icon to stay up to date with all my future uploads. Click like if you like the video and leave a comment down below on what you think about the decks. Here's the deck list right here. And just let me know something that you saw during the video or something that you think could be improved. As always, have fun, and remember, it's okay to play casual.